सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहैः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं. So we are on chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita, and we did the whole verse 24 and 25 of chapter 6, and then we read Swamiji's commentary, and today we are going to do verse 26. And just to connect, 24 and 25 were, method of meditation was explained by Lord Krishna. And the English translation is abandoning without reserve all desire bond of sankalpa. So all fanciful imagination, living in the past and future, all those kind of things, you have to completely stop. So it says, and completely restraining the whole group of senses by the mind from all sides. And it continues in the next one, little by little, let him attain quietude by the intellect held in firmness. Having made the mind establish in the self, let him not think of anything. So basically, controlling the senses with the mind from all sides. So just like lagam ko khich ke rakho, mind ki. And then little by little, shane, so it cannot happen very fast. Attain quietude by intellect held in firmness. So, with whatever understanding and all we have learned, the new knowledge, uske dwara pakad ke rakhna dhire dhire. Then it will become more and more quiet. And then having made the mind establish in the self. So then we went through in detail that how you first have to think about the self. First you have to know about the self. Then you have to think about the self. And then you have to pay attention to the self. And then at that point, let him not think of anything. So now the question is, इतना सब करने से हमारा काम हो जाएगा? And Krishna Bhagwan says, नहीं, पता है नहीं होगा. क्यों नहीं होगा? फिर से मन दौड़ेगा. Because there are some other problems in the mind. Right? So that's what, okay, I think need to mute here. So that, let's see what it says now, the next verse. Krishna Bhagwan, as I said, is very, very kind. He knows everything and he's trying to help us. So here is the verse 26. Yato nischarati manaschanchala asthiram tatas-tato niyamye tad atmanyeva vasham nyayet. So yata is from whatever cause. Yato means from wherever. Jahan man dode. So, nischarati wanders away. और ये जैसे हिंदी में जो हिंदी स्पीकिंग है ना, उनको ये चरना वर्ड मालूम है कि जब गाय घास चरने जाती है, तो वहीं से ये वर्ड आया है. मन भी घास चरने जाता है, एक्चुअली इधर उधर भागता है. दैट्स व्हाट इट मीन्स, वॉन्डर्स अवे. मन इज माइंड, चंचल इज रेस्टलेस, मंकी माइंड जिसको इंग्लिश में बोलते हैं. एक तरह टिकता नहीं है, कभी इधर से उधर कूदता रहता है. दैट्स कॉल्ड रेस्टलेस माइंड. एंड अस्थिरम, unsteady means एक जगह पे टिक नहीं सकता है. तो देयर आर टू एस्पेक्ट. एक तो कूदना एक तरह से दूसरे, और जहां पर कूदा ना वहां ज्यादा देर टिकेगा नहीं. दैट्स व्हाट इट मीन्स, अस्थिरम. So these are very kind of interesting word, and this chanchalam and asthiram comes later on also, because that is characteristic of the mind. Tata, maha se means from that. Niyamya, having restraint, उसको नियंत्रण में ले लेना, जिसको बोलते हैं हिंदी में. एतत, दिस, आत्मनि, इन द सेल्फ. तो उसको रिस्ट्रेन करके ना फिर से सेल्फ में बिठा देना. Means, all the knowledge that we have of self, place it again, mind in that. Eva, alone. Vasham, control. Vash में कर लेना, the control. Nayet, let him bring. उसको ले आओ वापस, control करके. So let's see what more detail over here. So we know that सब कुछ करने के बाद भी, when we sit down, mind will start creating some other thoughts. It's possible. And then attention will get shifted from the self to any other name and form of the worldly object, or some thought or emotion or anything. It can happen. Why? Because, as I said when I was explaining those two words, mind is chanchala by nature, means cannot think of one object, for a long time. Chanchal means just skipping from one thing to another, jumping from one to another. And it's just constantly changing the object of thinking. We are supposed to be thinking of self, and then we start thinking of someone else, some other place, and all that. And then asthira means, sthirta means to keep focused at one place for at least one length of time. So it won't do it. It will immediately get asthira. So object is the mind needs to be thinking of the self and remain there, right? That's the object. So once if we can achieve that, that's when, like, Nikhilananji had mentioned, that you start thinking about the self and then drop the thinking and place the mind. And that's when it will become silent. And then he gave the example, and we have used this example many times, but it's kind of appropriate, so I'll bring it again. That, using the mind like people use a pole for high jump. You use the mind and then drop the mind. That's the whole idea. Is that's what we are trying to do over here. Okay. So in the end, idea is to leave the mind on the side and just focus on the attention. But sometimes what happens is, everybody heard of the word vasanas? Like vasanas are, our impressions from the past. It could be from past lives, or it could be impression created in this life. And this whole karma yoga is also to roast those vasanas. But though it's not that easy to do. So these vasanas or impressions from the past, they will arise from inside. And I think in the modern language, you can say that subconscious mind में जो सब कुछ भरा हुआ है, उसकी वजह से, so हम चुपचाप बैठे हैं, suddenly some thought will come. So, and then when that impression, because of those impressions, and the cause can be different for different people. And when we read Swamiji's commentary is given, so because everybody's vasanas are different, that's why the cause may be different. But what happens when that vasanas start coming up is your attention will get shifted, from that thought on the self, it will move to another, whatever your impressions are. So, Nikhilananji said, the first thing we have to learn is we have to be alert. Because if you are not alert, then have you seen sometimes, you are sitting and your mind will wander. Suppose I'm trying to do a particular task. So I start, I'm writing something and I'll start, and then my mind will wander, and after about 10 minutes, I'll come back and say, oh, what am I doing? And he gave the example, you are sitting with the mala, japa mala, you try to focus on, Lord Krishna or Om Namah Shivaya, whatever. And then all of a sudden, the mind is wandered and it has gone all over the world, or whichever your thought is. And then after you come back, you're saying, what is this mala doing in my hand? That is like a worst case scenario. But so what he was saying, explaining, Nikhilananji, that depending on the color and texture of our thought, our mind will create a movie for us. Because of our imagination, it will actually create a movie and we'll get carried away. So the first thing is alertness is required. And I don't know how we can do that. Maybe we can put a little sign over there, hey, come back, mind, or something. I don't know. Everybody has to come up with some idea how to develop this, alertness. And then he actually gave a very good, once alertness is required. Suppose now I got alert and I said, okay, yes, my mind got shifted. Then what do I should do? So he's saying that if on whichever thought my mind is distracted, that thought needs to be negated. that it is false, it is illusory, it is a worldly thing. So that's where your Viveka Buddhi has to come in. Hey, I'm trying to do something higher right now. I'm trying to connect to this consciousness which is real, and everything else is compared to that is unreal. That's how we can, and this should be able to do because we have learned that now, right? So that's what it is. So he had another point he brought out, that it's the same thing, that whatever the distraction are, we have to gain vairagya from it. Vivek janya vairagya jisko bolte hain. Vivek se kiya hua vairagya, that this is, it's not going to help me, it's useless and things like that. And he also mentioned, little bit science of that, about, if you're meditating and suddenly some object comes. He's saying that usually at that moment, that is the strongest attachment that we have. Remember, we are supposed to be detached, right? So if while meditating, the thoughts are coming, at that moment, that is the strongest attachment grabbing me. So that's when I need the discrimination of real and unreal. So that has to be very clear in my mind. And that understanding that whatever I'm thinking is false and illusion and all that, those things that whatever we have studied. And also that at this moment, that is not the object of my meditation. That's not my purpose. It's like if I'm going in the kitchen to cook, I shouldn't be doing something else over there. I'm going there to cook. Same way, if I'm sitting in a meditation, I should be doing that. So those are some of the tricks. I thought he gave very good, pointers how we can do that. Then after we gain that vairagya again, then shift your attention back to the self. Obviously, that's the whole idea. And then he said, beware that this will happen many, many, many times. Shane, remember he said that. So, because that's the nature of the mind, it's restless, So this is what called is abhyas. Because later on, when Arjun is going to ask Krishna Bhagwan, hey, my mind is chanchal and asthiram, same words he uses, what Krishna Bhagwan has used, and it's very strong. Then, this particular thing that he has taught in this is called the abhyas. And he said that why does these mind get distracted? It can be due to habit also, or some other attraction which has become strong in our mind. Anything can happen. And then Swamiji in his commentary has given a lot of different reasons, and we'll see that. And then, Nikhilanandji said, this practice, this abhyas can take months or years also. Okay. So then we don't expect that suddenly, I've read Bhagavad Gita, I know what to do, and from tomorrow I'll be able to do it. No. Krishna Bhagwan already bhi bol diya, dheere dheere. But here Nikhilanandji also is saying. So he said that in the beginning, obviously, it will be more restless. With the constant practice, restlessness will become less. So that in this group, a lot of people have experienced that, hey, at one time I couldn't sit even for a few minutes, now I can sit longer. So we have seen that. And then he gave a very good example, Nikhilanandji. He's the master of giving great example. He said that जैसे कि एक गाय होती है ना, जो these charvahe वगैरह होते हैं, shepherds, they have cows, and so they leave the cow for grazing, and sometimes the cows will go here, there, dur chali jayegi, because the grass looks greener on the other side of fence, right? काव का सर एकदम नीचे होता है, दूर से उसको तो वो घास कितनी अच्छी है, एक्चुअली कुछ है नहीं, सेम ही है, मगर वो उस लालच में यहाँ वहाँ चली जाती है. And then finally the cow, the shepherd thinks, hey, why not I just bring this cow, उसको ना ये शेड में लाके ना खूटे से टांग दो और वहीं पर घास दे दो उसको. And so it keeps bringing it back and ties the cow down, and then the cow after a while becomes shant. He says, अच्छा जो भी खाना पीना है मेरे को यहीं मिल रहा है. I don't need to run around. So he says the same way the mind is, trying to be happy here, there, running around, and you're saying, no, come back. Stay in the self. Happiness is here only. I thought it was a great example he gave. So he's saying that just keep bringing it. And so once you create that habit of the mind of again and again coming back, then it will get into the habit of staying there, and it will not go even by mistake or negligence, and those things will not happen. And then also here we have discussed it in the past that if you seriously want to meditate, then create a space, a place, and constant time and all that, so then you can go over there. And then he said, as soon as you chant Om, then the mind will say, this guy is serious, So, and I think Joe always talks about that, if you do that, then your mantra will take you straight to that quietude, and you don't have to practice. So those are some of the saints and sages have given us very good tip. And then he said another very important thing, like if you have to dissect this a little bit more, that the mind needs two kind of things. One is it has to be trained and it has to be educated. I thought those were a very important point. Training means doing something repeatedly. Like I want to ride a bike, so I have to train myself, constantly go, and then one day, boom, I can easily, some people leave their hand here in Pacific Beach and ride their bike also. So good at it. So that's training. And what is education? To teach them what is real and unreal, whatever way, all the nature of the self. So both the things are important, training and education. And then that will help us to progress. So, so this is what this verse is talking about. And the next one is going to tell you that after you achieve all this, then what will be the result. So that we will do next time. But any question, comment, or anybody wants to add anything to this?
But I just have one question, Amari, because I'm trying to quieten my mind down, but at the same time, the verse is also telling us to be alert.
So alertness is nothing but, see, if you're trying to quieten your mind down, suppose what they're telling you, why Nikhila Nanji says alert, that if my mind wanders, it has a danger of staying there for a long time in that wandering. तो अलर्टनेस उस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में बोल रहे थे कि मुझे ये मालूम भी होना चाहिए कि मेरा माइंड वॉन्डर हो गया है. सी व्हाट आई एम सेइंग? नहीं तो बहुत टाइम वेस्ट हो जाएगा. So he actually just said make your mind alert, but he didn't say, in his pravachan that how to make the mind alert. That's why I was saying कि हम लोग को खुद ही सोचना पड़ेगा कि माइंड को अलर्ट कैसे बनाया जाए. And this फोकस का जो प्रॉब्लम है ना, वो बहुत खराब होता जा रहा है न्यू जनरेशन में, बिकॉज ऑफ द सोशल मीडिया एंड ऑल दैट. I don't know if you guys have noticed, this ADD and this whatever they say, attention deficit disorder, कि एक जगह पे माइंड टिकता ही नहीं है, because वो that little device called phone. And I was like so shocked. I asked my 10th graders in Chinmaya Mission, I said, one time, one or two of them were sitting, class had not started. I said, because मेरी क्लास में भी वो लोग ना धीरे से फोन निकाल लेंगे कभी कभी, and then they will start doing, and I have to really discipline them, and just few times I had to take the phone. It's so tempting for them. So I said, tell me one thing, in your school, do they allow you the phone? And a lot of them said yes. And I was like, my goodness. Because, sometimes certain things, okay, they can do on the phone to help their studies or something. How do you know that that's what they're doing? They're still immature, right? At 14, 15, they will be looking at other things. But that's how the world has become. And then I was asking, at what age did they get their phone? And most of them got it in the middle school. And I know that some in the elementary school also they give them. So that's the kind of thing over here, that, hey, your mind wanders, and what if it doesn't come back to it? Uske context mein wo alertness bol rahe hain. So I think each one of us has to figure out that what we have to do to maybe if somebody has some good ideas can say how to make your mind alert, to focus on one thing, basically.
Aren't you supposed to, when your mind wanders away, you have to bring it back to self again and
Yes,
again and again?
that's what he's saying. So bring it to self again, instead of thinking of so many other objects.
So that's, to me, one meaning of alertness is that you should know where to bring it back to.
Okay, so that's good too. But you understood what context I was saying कि जब हम लोग कुछ सोचने लगते हैं तो वो बह जाते हैं उसमें.
I know.
वो बहने का टाइम कम करने के लिए, ताकि अगर हम लोग 5 मिनट बहे तो फिर उसका 1 मिनट करो, 1 मिनट करे तो 10 सेकंड करो. I think practice से आएगा मेरे ख्याल में.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
As you do meditation for years and years, then you have quieted your mind down quite a bit, and because all those impressions that you were carrying that were making you think, that was taking you into thoughts. So does it mean that you have erased those many of those impressions or not?
So in Vedanta, they have used a very interesting analogy that you have seeds that if you put in the ground, they will sprout in the right conditions. Like if there is sunlight, there is water, there is all that, dirt and all that. But if you roast the seeds and then you put them in the ground, they will not sprout. So those impressions get roasted. Yeah. They are there, but they get roasted. They are not like I'll tell you, even in the worldly sense, it happens to us. Suppose if somebody has diabetes and they say, I'm not going to eat sugar. It's not that person doesn't like sugar. He loves sugar. But with constant practice, he does not eat. फिर उसको चाहिए ही नहीं वो sugar. He got used to having the tea without, and he started liking it. Something like that you can say. Because the impressions, we are born with the 3 gunas and they are kind of there, but then usko bolte hain gunatit ban jao. Don't let the gunas affect you. It's not like they have gone away, but you are not dancing to their tune. So that's what. And with understand, sorry, go ahead, Anilji.
जो आपने ये example दिया roasted seed का, that clears it totally.
Yes.
That if it is roasted, there is nothing that's going to sprout out of it.
Right. And even in like people who have alcohol problem or something, and then I have heard that they used to be completely alcoholic, and they said now they did the treatment or whatever, and now they don't take at all. Once in a while it can happen that but that means they were not fully roasted or something, So that's how it is, yeah. And I think that karma yoga and all that also helps a lot, because Krishna Bhagwan, the first thing he said that don't come under the sway of your likes and dislikes. He didn't say that get rid of likes and dislikes, because he knows likes and dislikes cannot be gotten rid of. You're born with it. A little baby also has. I have a grandson, we know he already has likes and dislikes about food and everything already, 13, 14 months. But with training and, and all that, you don't come under the sway of it. It's a similar thing that,
See, another way is you can observe your thought. Once you become a sakshi, then it will dilute itself.
Exactly. That's a very powerful technique. It's a Vedantic technique, actually.
Yeah.
That see everything in, awareness. And I think that I still remember we were watching that Buddha series. And some of you have watched, right? The Buddha series. जिसमें Gautam Buddha का पूरी life story बताई है. So he's learning different things from different people, and one of them he's trying to learn the meditation, and he's having the same difficulty that we are talking about. And he's asking that person who was teaching him, and he said, how do I do this? So then he said, look up. So he looked up. He said, do you see the sky? So he said, yes. So he's saying that in that sky you see the clouds, and he said, yes. So he's saying your thoughts are like the clouds and you are the sky. What is happening to the clouds? They're coming and going. Focus on the sky. So he said, just like what Joe is saying, that, hey, I'm that awareness. Everything is happening within me, and it doesn't affect the awareness. If we have that deep understanding, then even if some negative thought, positive thought, some impression comes, so accept that. Okay, I have that, but I'm not that. So then it becomes less powerful. That is a Vedantic way. So, but there are so many different paths of meditation. They tell you all different, and that's why the japa also is for that same purpose, right? That you are engaging all your senses in it in one thing. Your hand is moving, your mind, your mantra, you pick up a mantra that you associate with your Ishta Devata, then your bhakti is there, your mind will go towards it, and all that. So all those techniques are for the same thing only. Any other comment or question anybody has? Any volunteer to read this? Okay, then I'll have to just go. Anilji, you can read it then.
From whatever cause, the restless and the unsteady mind wanders away. From that, let him restrain it and bring it back to be under the control of the self alone. Every student who tries to understand the above two verses and tries to put them into practice should necessarily come to despair at his own incapacity to control the mind and fix it constantly in the contemplation of the self. In utter despair, every seeker must come to realize that the mind irresistibly wanders away from its point of concentration because the mind is, by its very nature, restless, chanchal, and unsteady, asthir. It can neither constantly think of one object nor can it constantly think of the different objects. By these two terms qualifying the mind, restlessness and unsteadiness, Krishna has brought out a vivid and very realistic picture of the entire mind, as it is experienced by all true seekers striving on the path of meditation. These two phrases are so impressive that we shall find later on Arjuna himself, while crystallizing his doubts into language, uses them quite naturally.
So we saw that whoever is trying to meditate seriously is going to come across these two problems. Majority of us. I mean, कोई होगा जिसने पिछले जन्मों में किया होगा, बचपन से ही जो एकदम चला जाए meditation, वो कम ही होते हैं. But let's talk about the majority. So he's saying that we will be totally will come to despair कि ये, how will I do it? I'm never going to able to do it. He's saying, don't worry. And then there's two words that I said, that chanchal and asthira, that really describes the mind, nature of the mind. And like I said, that Arjuna is going to use the same word later on in the chapter to again ask that question. That means this is very significant problem. And most of us come across it.
Thus, during practice, even though the seeker has brought his sense of organs to a large extent under his control, still the mind, disturbed by the memories of its past experiences, will shoot out in search of its sense objects. These are the moments of dejection and even despair for the seekers. These wanderings of the mind may be due to very many reasons. The memory of the past, the near vicinity of some tempting objects, the association of ideas, some attachment or aversion, or maybe even the very spiritual aspiration of the seeker. Lord Krishna's instruction here is very categorical and all-embracing. He says, whatever be the reason because of which the restless and the unsteady mind wanders away, the seeker is not to despair, but should understand that it is the nature of the mind to wander, and that the very process of meditation is only a technique to stop that wandering.
So see, he brought out, Swamiji brought out so many different things that, disturbed by the memories of the past experiences and all that will come from the bosom. It'll just come out. And then it could be so many different reasons. The memory of the past, the near presence of some tempting object. We know that. If we like something, if we want to eat something and that thing is sitting in the kitchen, mind will go over there. The association of ideas, some attachment or aversion, even likes or dislikes, strong ones. Or a spirit, even the very spiritual aspiration of the seeker. Ki ye kyun nahi ho raha hai, or something, I want to do this faster. Although anything can disturb our mind. So that's why I'm saying the Krishna Bhagwan's this thing is all embracing, because everybody, पहले तो reasons इतने सारे हो सकते हैं, ऊपर से हर एक के वासनास अलग है, reasons अलग है. There will be so many millions of permutation combination why somebody's mind is one. So he's saying don't worry about why, but if it does for whatever reason, that's why he used yato and tato. Means jahan se aata hai, wahan se le aao. That's what he's saying over here. And this is the only technique, means जो अभ्यास जो उन्होंने बताया है कि उसको पकड़ के वापस लेके आओ. It's like a small child running away, you constantly bring him back. Yeah.
Let him bring it back. The seeker is advised to bring back the mind that has rushed out into its own appointed dissimilar channels of thinking. This withdrawal of the mind by sheer willpower may be successful to a degree, but as soon as it is brought back, it will, and it should rush out again into another fanciful line of thinking. Very rarely do the sadhakas realize that the mind means the flow of thoughts. A steady, motionless mind is no mind at all. Therefore, in the technique of meditation, when the mind is withdrawn from the sense objects, this very process of withdrawal is to be complemented by a conscious effort on the part of the meditator in applying the same mind at once in the contemplation of the self. This idea has been remarkably well brought out when the Lord complements his instruction by the term bringing it under the sway of the self alone.
So we have gone through this in the previous verses कि okay उसको पकड़ के वापस लेके आओ फिर क्या? No, you उसको self के में वापस बिठाओ. And I was thinking of a child that, okay, if the child is, there are 10 different objects he's running after, and you want to bring him back and put him, in one place, you have to give him some other very attractive object to hold on to, that he thinks that is the best one. Otherwise, again, he will run. That's exactly what he's saying, because I think that's what I found. I always say the biggest difference in what Krishna Bhagwan is teaching us about meditation versus many other kinds that are out there, because they don't talk about place your mind in the self. They'll just, quieten your mind. All that it will give you a lot of benefit. I'm not saying health benefits also, mind will become quiet. You might get relatively happier and all that. But then he's talking about taking you to the highest over here. And also, I think if you have something to engage your mind with, that is much better than just, some worldly object and just stop at that. Because then that, if it is self, it's infinity and all that, and then it will take you to the higher. So from all perspective, I think this one is a much more scientific technique, at least from my perspective. I don't know how all of you feel about after studying all this. So, and the next one is, in mine, I think there is one more line over here, but that applies to the next one. In yours, it may be after that. The following few stanzas explain the effort of the yoga of meditation upon its true practitioner. So that we will do it next time. But any question, comment? Anybody wants to add anything about meditation? Whatever we have learned so far, we still have, let's see, there are 47 verses in there. So we have a lot more to go before
one thing that I learned for all the years I've been practicing meditation, it was only to quiet the mind. But here I learned where to go after you quiet the mind.
That's exactly what so you confirmed it, that that's what the big difference is over here. That's why they call Vedanta, like, when Sarvapriyananji talks about Vedanta, he says that it is the absolute, the highest peak, and all the others just fit somewhere in there. Even the Buddhism, they do Vipassana and all that. I don't know too much about it because few people in my family go over there. So they're also, they focus on some body and energy and all that. They never talk about the self or anything like that, or consciousness. No, they don't. Yeah.
But the real joy comes when you are able to focus on self.
That's the point. That's he's going to say that joy, because that is bliss, right?
That is bliss.
And it was one of the girls from when I was in Houston. She was in my son's class over there, and then she took that couple of years course. They call it brahmachari course. They call it brahmachari course, but basically it is, to study Vedanta very deeply. 3 years they give. So they study so thoroughly. And she was married. She and her husband both went there. And when she came back, now she's become like, she takes care of, Priya. I think Meenaji knows. So the other day we were having some conversation on Zoom, with the Chinmaya Mission thing. And she said when she was a student, came to Chinmaya Mission, she was so thrilled that somebody says, you are that infinity. That's what really touched her heart, she said, because anywhere you go, they're like, you don't know how to do this, you don't know how to do that. And here you come to Vedanta, and is Lord Krishna is saying, you are that reality, you are that infinity, you are everything. And wow, she was, so I thought it was such a nice point she brought, that, so if you are, sitting in that joy, so in that self, slowly, that's what it is. You will get that joy because nothing touches me, nothing, whatever happens in the world, and from a worldly perspective, it may be very horrible, but it's just illusion still. If I can convince myself of that, I will be joyful.
Umaji, it's like when you're trying to get away and all of the thoughts are coming, and then I just have to tell myself, okay, you're giving me the thought that's in you. So everything is in you. So you are the one. So I bring it back, the thought to it.
Yes.
And then it tells me, okay, then I'm not concentrating on the thought, but I'm concentrating, okay, you're the one who's giving me. So I sort of blame it on you or tell him, okay, you're the one. So this way, at least I'm not thinking of that same thought.
Yeah, I think that's a good technique too.
I just laugh at myself and say, okay, you're doing it. Okay, you're going to take it away, and I have nothing to do with it. So blame it.
In fact, somebody was saying that on a similar ground, he's saying कि अगर बहुत गुस्सा आ रहा हो ना, तो किसी इंसान पे गुस्सा करने के बजाय भगवान पे निकाल दो गुस्सा.
Yeah.
Just say, why you are giving me this anger, get angry at him and he will help you. So I thought that a similar thing you are doing.
Exactly. And then it helps. It does help. Laugh at it, get angry, but it calms you down within. It calms you inside. That's what it is.
That's good.
So.
Anybody else wants to share their technique or experience of how to achieve this?
I think we all talk about the quietening of the mind, but to an extent, it needs to be quietened from the external influences which would disturb you emotionally, or that would disturb you, bring you more and more negative impressions out from your inner mind, subconscious mind. So in that perspective, quietening the mind is very important. But to an extent, the mind has to do its functions, which is like to contribute to the society, communicate with external forces while you are performing any duties or job or anything else. So in that category, what do you see how far we need to work on quietening the mind?
So I think what you're talking about is the Vyavharik thing that we have to do, but that's what we study in Vedanta, that you have to keep that separate, because that Vyavhar we have to do in the world. It's like the best example that they give in, like Chinmayananji or other people give that we can relate to, it's like playing a role. So we are all given the role to play, but it doesn't mean that the role is not you, but that is a role given to you to play in this life. You just play as best as you can, remembering that I am not that. That whatever Mukesh Bhatt you are, reality you are not that. You have just assumed that identity for in this life. So that's how you separate it. So when right. I'm sitting down in meditation, I should be able to separate that Mukesh Bhatt from this. That's all. It's hard, but that's once most Vedanta we study, that's what I would say that we have to do. So it's not that I'm going to stop becoming a Mukesh Bhatt. I will do a very good job as a Mukesh Bhatt, but I fully well knowing that that's just an identity I've assumed temporarily.
But Umaji doesn't, Gurudev just says, put your mind where your hands are.
Yeah, so that if you follow that in the meditation, what is my job in meditation?
Right. And
right?
while you're working, because
yeah.
So while you're working, put your mind there and let not go around. Fix your mind in what you're doing. And that's what they want, Then your mind is not going around. So
whatever you're saying, true. And that's how that Lakshan of Sthita Prajna was mentioned, that the Sthita Prajna, deep inside he knows I am that Brahman, and from that perspective he acts out everything in the world. And even in the worldly sense, if you take that example of that actor, like this guy Tom Cruise now, this Top Gun is, my boys were telling me it is out here. He knows that he is a Tom Cruise and he's just acting as a Top Gun over there, as a soldier or whoever. He never forgets that. In fact, if he does forget, then even the director will be very upset. And also when he goes back home and his wife or girlfriend, whoever, will kick him out too. That, hey, if you want to be Top Gun, then go do it on your set. Here you are Tom Cruise. Same way, like if I don't forget my identity, that, I am that Brahman, but still from that, knowing that I act in the world. So there are so many things that come in over here. Okay, so shall I close Bhagavad Gita here? Nobody else has anything. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhya moksha ishyami ma shuchaha. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Hari Om.